Dean,
Suleiman.
how was your week, bro?
My week was alright. I just finished an internship that I started when I was in my final year of uni. So this time last year, I didn't just finish it actually. It was for 6 months, starting in November. And the other day we had like a presentation evening. So this internship, it was with a company called the Brooklyn Brothers, and it was called the Night School. So anyone that's listening that's interested in like marketing or the creative industries, definitely check this out, the Night School. And what we were all tasked with was to create a project that meant anything to you and present it on this presentation day. So some people did a film, some people did photography, some people did like creative art, some people did a poem. And it was interesting to see like what everyone did, because for 6 months we haven't seen each other, and we used to meet up on Zoom like every week for 2 hours on a Wednesday, and then boom, this is the first time we've seen each other in the flesh. And then we see what everyone's made, and it was interesting. It was a nice day, man. Like we went to, it was in the offices, which is somewhere in central London, and just seeing what everyone did and being like, rah, that's what you like, do you know what I mean? And just learning a bit more about everyone and coming together. It was cool, man, because like many of the relationships that I've made like in the last year, I don't know the people, I've never met the people in real life, so it was nice to kind of see everyone, and the culmination of like all of those sessions and information and and everyone come up with what they come up with. So yeah, man, that was one of the highlights.
Bro, you're gonna not tell us what your project?
Oh yeah.
I just skirted around the whole thing, like the relationship. Yeah, it was all
No, but obvious though.
What did you do?
Oh, I did the video you seen, the ends one.
Yeah.
So that was what it was for, basically.
Was it
Yeah.
that video that you presented?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
So what was your actual project? Bro, you got
Bro,
me.
suddenly the best person at answering a question,
Hey, is it?
and you feel like you answered it.
Are you going into politics? man. Was like, this is Big Ben. These are the Houses of Parliament.
Nah.
So basically, it was the idea of the word ends. It was kind of playing on that. So the word ends is a word used a lot. At least for me growing up, it was a kind of a marker of where someone's from, or like who they are. Like, oh, this so and so is coming today, and you're like, who's that? I've never heard of him. Oh, he's from ends. This car, like that kind of thing. And so it's basically unpacking like, what does it mean to be from ends? Is it even a thing? Is it just one of those words? And it's just, that's for me, it was mildly interesting. Like, it's not profound. It's just something that, looking back on, you kind of go, okay, that's interesting. Like, let me just explore that. And it's just one of those words for me that are just kind of wrapped in the context it's used in it. It doesn't really mean anything outside of like the specific moments it's used. So just kind of exploring that, and I just basically asked 10 of my friends, what does it mean to you to come from the ends? Does it mean anything at all? And I all kind of gave different, varying responses, and then we put it in like a short film.
That's dope, man.
100%.
You need to link me that film after.
Bro, if you want to watch it, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to Dean's Instagram page, and it's there. Follow him on Insta. Get that idea.
You got better things to do than that, man. Dude.
Trust me, it's an amazing. He's underselling it fully, and like
Yeah.
I think partly it's because he's sat with it for so many months. Do you know what I mean? But like for people, it's a very refreshing video, and it's, for me, it's something you don't think about. Do you know what I mean? But it's a very core part of a lot of people's identity. And like he said, if you were to tell someone, oh, he's from ends or she's from ends, like it just it shifts the dynamic and the expectations that you have about meeting someone new. Do you know what I mean? Like you feel, if you come from that background, at least for myself, they become a lot more familiar, and they become someone that you already know there's going to be a lot of common ground. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
So it was profound in many ways. Mildly.
No, the idea of a community, you find like there's a lot of literature on it. Just the idea of a community, communitarianism, all of that stuff in it. So ends is just our version of it, innit? So.
Philosopher of science, man. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Suleiman, how's your week, man?
My week was, it's cool, man. I would say the highlight of my week is I've started, for the longest time, I haven't picked up a fiction book in many months, if not years, bro. So I started reading 1,000 Splendid Suns.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, by Khalid Hosseini. Like, it's wild. Like, a lot of people recommend it. For many people, it's one of their favorite books. So I've just started that, and I look forward to the
Based
journey
in
that's taking
Afghanistan,
me.
right?
Yes, based in
Yeah.
Afghanistan. Yeah, yeah.
Is that how far are you in it?
Like 30 pages, 20 pages.
Okay. Is
Still
that
very
about the
early.
lady? She's a lady and she's trying to escape. It's set around like
Yeah, so
she's married to a guy.
so I've just started, and the girl's mother has passed away, and she's moved
Okay,
in with her
yeah.
dad.
Okay.
But then I think she's an illegitimate child, so there's some different.
Oh,
dynamics.
Harami's used bear in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
Okay.
the literature and the writing is very nice.
Yeah. One
But-
thing I remember about him is when he wrote The Kite Runner, he was a doctor, and apparently he wrote it in his breaks
Mad.
in hospital. Like he wrote that book. Yeah, man.
It's like a #1 bestseller or something.
It's
Yeah.
big. Like they teach on English literature A-level courses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember my sister mentioned that at some point. I think she owns the book too.
Yeah.
I've never read it, but obviously told me.
Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes.
I'll be honest. When it comes to fiction, I haven't read fiction in a minute. But yeah, a good book's a good book.
100%. What about you, Mohammed, man? Chat to us. How's your week been?
Blessed, man. Yeah, no complaints. There's a lot. Alhamdulillah, at the moment, there's a lot of khair. A lot of things going on. Going on for me in life. So yeah, I can only say alhamdulillah, man. Uni, of course, consuming a lot of my thoughts in it. But I'm about a month in now, and I'd say I'm settled. I'm settled in it. Obviously meeting brothers like you. It's good in it. But yeah, week's been good. 3 days in. Yeah, no complaints.
So when you were in secondary school, how would your friends have described you in terms of like what kind of adjectives would they have used to describe Mohammed, like from year 7 to year 11?
I'd say I was pretty quiet, man. Yeah. I was a floater too, where I just float around different social groups. I didn't really. So I felt comfortable in different social groups too. Generally because I liked interacting with people. I'd say maybe I was quite. Actually, I would say I was less reserved as a youth than I am now, and that's probably just that youthful enthusiasm that we all have at that age, innit? But I don't know if it's the same for you, man. But
Would you say you're more reserved or less reserved?
I don't know. That's a really difficult question for me to answer. I would say I'm not too dissimilar. Like, I think in primary school I wasn't very reserved. I don't think I would be considered as reserved if you asked a friend.
You're saying he was the big name. Big name on campus.
But in secondary school, maybe you might, and then I think I don't think since college I've been pretty similar. What about you? Why is that funny?
Man's better aloof. In secondary school.
Is that how you describe him?
No.
You're coming in with a cape and that, bro. In the shadows.
Don't chat to me.
Chat to me under the staircase and that, bro.
Do you mind going to the same?
No. What area did you go secondary school?
Dagenham, East London.
Okay.
Yeah. So I moved about a lot. I was telling Suleiman this earlier, but I moved about quite a bit. Too many times to actually remember. But the biggest chunk of my secondary school years was in Dagenham, at a school called Robert Clark, and then I moved for my sixth form years to Central, and I studied at the Greycoat Hospital, which is in Pimlico.
I've heard of it. Yeah. Okay. Go on. What were you more reserved or less reserved? I know you was a savage. You had reserved.
If you said reserved, I'd believe it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I've become more reserved.
Is it?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, in the last, especially since like 2 years ago, I would say in the last 2 years I've become a bit more reserved.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that life dawning on you?
don't know, what does it mean to be more reserved? Does it just mean like not speaking out as much with as much confidence? Like, don't know.
I think that's more shyness. So shyness, in terms of a definition, I think is more along the lines of being afraid of social judgment. But someone who's reserved, I think by definition is more along the lines of, or someone who's slow to opinions or feelings.
What would make you think of a person as not reserved? Like, what thing do they do in a social setting?
Say if someone was sat in
a workplace, even, or
as a good example, I'd say if they were very opinionated, I wouldn't describe them as reserved.
Okay.
I would say eye contact. Like, if they give you eye contact and they're not shy to like look in your, like, not obviously, you know what I mean, like, they don't need to be staring at people, but like a lot of my friends, or a lot of people I can think of who I know, I wouldn't describe them as, I would describe them as reserved. They don't. They look. It's like they're lowering their gaze. Like they're just.
The hayas of
bro. Like, they get triggered when people look at them in like for long periods of time. They find it weird. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah, I think with eye contact, I have to tell myself to make eye contact. So my default is to look away. So when I'm interacting with people, my default is to look away. And sometimes that's not helpful because I'll lose my train of thought. But I don't know if that comes through a type of shyness or something like that. But there are points where I could say I'm locked in. Say if the topic's engaging, then I'll be and I'm quite familiar with that person, then I'll be locked in with my eye contact. But it's always been a funny one for me, man. I'd say as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at eye contact, but still to this day, I tell myself, Mo, make eye contact, because and it's a type of respect you afford the other person, and maybe in some cultures they might view it as a disrespect not making eye contact, but maybe, well, at least from my position, that's not what I'd intended.
How do you feel like your experiences in school changed
me?
Yeah.
I don't know. They shaped me, 100%. So primary school is a bit difficult to even recollect that much, but secondary school definitely. I think the thing I take from secondary school is just being able to hold myself in social settings, different social settings. You know, I was saying earlier about floating a bit, hanging out with different social groups, and I'd say I took that into late years of life, even to this day. So a big part of the reason why I picked Bath as my undergrad uni was I wanted to get out of my comfort zone a bit. I knew going to a place like Bath, I was going to be the black brother. I knew, and it just so happened I was the only black guy on my course. I think in my entire department actually. In that year, I was the only black guy there, and you find it just walking in and around town, you'll get looked at. I'm not to say those looks had any good or bad intent, but I think from secondary school, being able to just float around and accepting the fact that I'm going to need to be able to adapt to different social settings helped me later on in life, for sure. And you see it with the workplace, because you enter the workplace, as in, I'm not, unfortunately, you don't see a lot of people that look like us in it, which is surprising considering the makeup of London and how multicultural it is. But
how would you say, like, your relationship with your faith has evolved, like in the last, like I don't know, in the last few years, or like throughout your life generally?
I'd say since graduating, I went to I'd say there are a few transformative moments for me. One of them was a retreat that I went to in Rosales, which is in southern Spain. It's a complex just north of Granada. I don't know if you've heard of an organisation called Rumi's Cave. But yeah, they hold this annual retreat. It was amazing. There for about a week. Me and a couple friends that knew prior to going hired out a car. So we had there were two guys that I knew prior. We had a car, so yeah, I knew it was going to be a sick trip. And then we got there and met some other brothers, met some other people that I'm still in contact with, real close friends. And the trip itself was, it's hard to describe. It's something you need to experience. I went there and I turned my phone off for the entire week.
Mad.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Do you know what?
That sounds like a long journey, bro. Just like going off for a week.
I felt like I was just in my element.
Mad.
When you're on a patch of land where you're surrounded by sustenance, crops, you've got a cafeteria, you've got a masjid on that, you've got a swimming pool, you've got a little badminton racket, there's some classrooms, everything that you need is there, and it shows you what humanity can be, or what the human experience can be reduced to. Just these simple means, and I turned my phone off from the moment I got there. So I messaged my parents. I was like, "Yeah, I'm here." Turned my phone off, and then there was a point midweek where I turned it back on just to tell them I was still alive. Turned it back off, and then the way it was organised was great too. So it was lessons from Fajr. So directly after Fajr, we had lessons that were led by Sheikh Babikir and another brother whose name slips me at the moment. But I felt at ease, man. Spiritually, I'd never been in that place before, and I came back and I was just on a high. And it wasn't just your typical holiday high, post-holiday high, but just a genuine spiritual high that I was on. What I found most beneficial was that I felt like the working life and London and its pace in particular hardens your heart a bit, if I'm honest. And although I felt I was still me, there were moments where I felt like my heart could have been softer. Maybe apparently no one could tell, but just off the back of that trip, I felt like, yeah, this is where I should be emotionally, spiritually. So that was a step along the way of becoming someone who cared a lot more about his deen, and obviously it's incremental process of improvement. And the second one was I'd say illness. So back in 2016 I took a course of antibiotics that they messed up my digestive system, in short, a bit, and they gave me chronic indigestion and some other discomfort. And just being aware of the fact that, hey, listen, every day, but I'm managing it a lot better now. But just being aware of the fact that and health is something that you can't take for granted, and yeah, has brought me closer to as well. Being aware of our mortality, basically.
What's one thing you're grateful for your younger self that your younger self has done? Like, what's one thing you're grateful for your younger self for doing, basically? Looking back at it today.
It's almost as if I feel like at that age, things are done to you. Like, what do we do consciously at that age?
That's interesting.
Yeah, as in we're just stumbling through those years. There are things that I can say I'm grateful for at that age. I'm grateful to have had the education that I had. So I went to a state school like most of us, called Robert Clack, but it was just so happened to be a good state school. It's interesting because next door was a school called All Saints. Looking back now, a lot of I'm going to say the black brothers in my year, the ones that I knew, the ones that I spoke to, did well. You know, to this day, gone to good universities and found themselves in great careers. Next door, there were a group again of black brothers who were a lot more involved with road, a lot more involved, to the point where there were within that group, I know of an incident where one of them died, and it always struck me that there was this contrast. Black brothers that black boys that went to a good school that was heavily focused on education, and the school next door wasn't necessarily a bad school. It was quite a good school actually, but their focus was on other extracurricular things, innit? So I'm grateful for the school that I had, and another thing that I'm grateful for is just maybe the fact that I was never attracted to that type of stuff. So although it was around me, I never saw the pull. Maybe I was just scared of my pops, but, but yeah. But there's, I don't know, because a lot of people who I guess come from our backgrounds have similar sort of stories, innit? And I always wonder what it is, why that specific person didn't go down the route that the next man might have gone down.
What's your theory, Yak?
I feel like there's like 5 criteria, yeah? And if you tick the more boxes you tick, the more likely. So like 1 is where you live, 1 is where you go to school, 1 is your home life, and I suppose 1 is like your financial situation. And if, for example, let's say you live in a peak estate, you go to a bad school, you're a single parent family, and you're poor. If you tick all 4 boxes, then it's peak. It's peak. But let's say
and if you're an older sibling,
if you're an older sibling as well, and like assuming England. But let's say you live in a nice area, but you're a single parent, and you go to a bad school, and you're like working class, then you have a bit of respite from the peakness, because when you go home, it's calm. Like you can step out, and there's a sense of thing. So it's like, for me, it's kind of like, of those 4, how many of those do you tick, and what is your combination?
I think that's a good metric. That's not bad.
And how do you prioritize each one too? Because as you were saying,
on that point, of those 4, which is, let's say if you could choose to save a person, not save, but you know what I mean, like what one would you kind of give them?
Home life, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Strong nuclear family, 100%. Because that's your accountability. That's your reference point too.
100%.
Even in a peak area.
Yeah, it's your reference point. It
Okay.
should be your reference point. And that's not to say that if you come from a stable home, that you won't end up in badness.
If you go to a good school, though,
even if all the other 3 are peak.
I would say good school is number 2.
Okay.
Good school is number 2 after a good home, because where do you spend the other 6 hours of your time?
Exactly. Yeah.
and like the commute. You know what I mean? They gotta take that into account. Everything's part of it.
Discipline. Where do you learn things like discipline, accountability, responsibility from the home? So if your dad's some whatless guy, and your mum doesn't really care about your well-being, then what are the chances that you're gonna grow up to be an exemplar in your community? So
And then number 6 is the luck. Number 6 is just luck. Just bump into the wrong time.
it's a shame. It's a shame. And you see how important it is, even for people who come from stable homes but want to advance in terms of their career. You see the importance of a mentor is. And it's a similar sort of principle. You're looking for an example to follow, because that is whoever that person is your rate limiting step, you could say. He's the person that you can only not in a strict way. Obviously, you can grow up to be better than that person, but yeah, if that person is no good, then it's going to have an effect on you.
Let's say you met someone for the first time and you really wanted to get to know them, but you could only ask them one question. What question would you ask?
Could you repeat that?
What one question would you ask
Yeah.
if you really wanted to get to know someone and you only had the opportunity to ask them one question, but you really wanted to get to know them, you wanted to know who they are?
Yeah.
What one question would you ask? Yeah.
If I had one question and I wanted to get to know that person, it'd be a simple question. I'd just ask them what they're passionate about, because I think our interests tell us, or interest will tell you a lot about a person. So if someone, just to use a crude example, if someone is is racist, for example, they might have a deep interest in nationalism, or do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So just from the perspective of learning or trying to understand more about a person, I'd just ask them, what are you passionate about? And then they'd usually ramble on about something.
And you sit back and
Exactly.
Basically, yeah, they ask people to cook their traditional dishes. Yeah, this is so funny. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna cook food. You know, Sudanese food. It comes in a pot. Yeah.
What's it, cook? Yeah.
Bro, cook. All I did is do that. And so they were asking me, bro, I'm in the kitchen. You know, it's on like Instagram Live. There's like for an organization called the Bellow, sick organization, by the way. Yeah. And so I'm doing like, I'm all like chefing up here, but in my mind I'm like, bro, I've literally put a tin into a pan, and then I'm just stirring it for time, over stirring, like this, the stirring is done.
Did you at least drop a bit of shamar and
I added a couple things.
yes,
Like, but not.
sesame oil?
No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Bro, and he's like, so tell me a bit about food. Like, bro, I'm like, bro, yeah, just have it. You get me?
Not even some feta cheese. Oh my god.
Oh man, yeah, man. That's why.
This was good, man. This was very enjoyable. How did you find it?
No, it was wicked, man.
Yeah.
Wicked. Are we not rude?
The last thing I would want to say is subscribe, follow us on Instagram. I mean, comment, like. I mean, engagement is good for the channel and the platform. And big up Route 25 for giving us their space again, man.
Big up, man. No, thank you for inviting me. Man. Yeah, it's been wicked. I just noticed I took a quick glance at the camera. You know, I'm not used to these settings, innit? But yeah, no, thank you.
Master, you didn't tell me there was a camera.
But yeah, no, this is no, it's been enjoyable, man. And yeah, big up what you two are doing, man. Yeah.
Love my stuff. Very good.
But yeah, I took a quick glance at it. You know, you caught me off guard and then because I thought, oh, have we wrapped up?